Part 2, Chapter 2. I'd been doing a lot of work for Abe Krantz lately, delivering his takeout and shuttling documents back and forth to his clients. It's faster than the mail, he told me, and it makes the old folks feel important. One day I found him sitting under a table umbrella on his back lawn, puffing a cigar and reading. Behind him, the propeller of his weather station turned lazily. I put his package on the table and, as always, he invited me to sit for a while. But first I went inside, fetched a lemonade for myself, filled an ice bucket for him, and collected his scotch from his office. "What's it about?" I asked, pointing to the thick volume on his lap. Abe was refusing to admit summer was gone. He was wearing checkered Bermuda shorts and a striped T-shirt that showed he had once been a muscular guy, but had rounded off. I sat down the tray of drinks and poured him a scotch and added ice. He took a sip and sat back. "Ah, the staff of life," he said in a voice, a low growl. "If you say so. Where would civilization be without scotch and cigars? Soberless and cancerless?" He laughed. "Anyway, to answer your question, this book is about weather and history. Why the dinosaurs died off, stuff like that. More like the reason General so-and-so lost the Battle of such-and-such was because of the unexpected blizzard. Or the rainy weather brought out more than the usual number of mosquitoes, which upped the incidence of malaria among the troops, which depleted the army, which delayed the invasion, which... I think I get it. The whole book is like that?" "Yep. Your hobby, the weather. You're a little like Cutter was," I said. "He was really analytical." "Oh?" "Yeah, he invented a computer game, and, well, I haven't played it, but it's based on solving riddles and puzzles. And he did tons of research, put it together to make theories. Sometimes they made sense. Cutter was really smart." Abe nodded. The breeze off the lake flapped the fringes of the umbrella. It felt good, cool and fresh on my skin. "It's tough, losing a friend," Abe said quietly. "Yeah. My wife, Helen, she was my best friend." When he raised his glass to his mouth, his hand was shaking. Even though it was mine now, Lakshmi had sent me all the documents to prove it, I stayed away from the house on 13th Street, with its darkened windows and haunted atmosphere. When a delivery took me to the area, I avoided the block between the lakeshore and Morrison Street. I was scared to go into the place. Cutter had died there. He had gulped down a jar of sleeping pills, fallen back on his bed, and drifted away forever. Why had he given me his house? What was I supposed to do with it? Did he expect me to move in? Did he even know why he had left me his home? After all, as he had told me himself many times, I'm cracked. I thought about it a lot as I pedaled around town, or peeled potatoes for the soup of the day, or emptied the cafe dishwasher, or when I lay sleepless in the middle of the night. After a while I told Rena about my inheritance and asked her if she thought I should just sell the house and be done with it. She said to wait a while, not to make any decisions yet. And then it occurred to me that if Cutter did have a reason for giving me his house, if it hadn't been just an irrational flash in his brain, but part of a plan, the answer would be in the house itself. And the only way to find out was to push aside my fear and go there. It was a cold, dreary afternoon, just after Rena had hung the close sign on the cafe door, when I mounted the tank and pedaled off to 13th Street, the ring of keys like a rock in my pocket. The rain, driven by the wind, lashed my face like sleet, and by the time I reached the house, I was wet and shivering. The front yard was spattered with sodden leaves. The red light glowing on the video camera over the front door gave me the creepy feeling that someone still lived there. I fished out the keys and fumbled through the bunch until I had the locks undone and went inside, careful to lock up again. Then I shook my head, mumbled to myself, and unlocked the doors, determined not to fall into Cutter's paranoia. I made a mental note to bring extra rings with me next time so I could separate the keys into categories. The place was so quiet I could hear the kitchen clock ticking. I found the light switch, and suddenly I was back in the familiar, messy world of Cutter's office. Little red and green lights along the desktop told me the computers and peripherals had never been switched off, and the TV monitors showed the 4 outside locations covered by the cameras. I had never noticed before, but Cutter had rigged them to rotate the images through the 4 monitors, probably to prevent the images from burning the screens. The house was warm and stuffy, with an underlying odor in the air. The smell grew stronger as I entered the kitchen. I looked under the sink and pulled out a sack of stinking potatoes and an obscene tangle of white shoots. I took a plastic garbage bag and dumped the potatoes inside. In the fridge, I discovered a container of yogurt giving off a powerful stench, some limp celery, a few wilted carrots, and half a cheese sandwich. All of it went in the garbage with the potatoes. I tied up the bag and unlocked the back door. In the garage, I found a garbage pail and tossed the bag inside. I saw a lawnmower, a trimmer, a rake, a few shovels, a couple of fuel cans. Cutter didn't own a car. I went back inside and began to clean up the kitchen. The sense that I didn't belong in the house was like a voice nagging in my ear, but I kept going, forcing myself to finish what I had come for. I washed the countertop, the table, and the floor. I wiped down the shelves and walls inside the fridge. I emptied the dishwasher and stacked the dishes in the cupboards. As I was hanging a towel over the chairs to dry, my cell chirped. It was Andrea. "Are you free for delivery, Lee?" I thought about my plan to force myself upstairs to take a look around. Cutter's room, the place where he'd killed himself, was up there. "Perfect timing," I said into the phone. "Be right there."